60-point half. Deep two, just inside the three-point arc. 10 out front against Collins. Make his move right about now. 5 down to 4 with 3. Puts the shot up, rattles it up and in.
So good at that.
Jazz up 11. Quiet Paul George. George in traffic, drives inside. It's all he needs, just a small seam. Bucket here, but cut the lead to 4. Ahmad, big cut it. John Collins, he struggled with that 3 last year in Atlanta, but the 3 years prior, he was a 39% three-point shooter. And now I'm down to Westbrook.
One-on-one defense that time, right?
All right, team, buckle up.
That's what he does.
Paul George.
And we didn't even celebrate it on the 31st. We had it on the 30th. It was called Beggars Night.
Yeah, oh, it was Beggars Night.
Paul George. Of course it's going to be the... To be clear, from all the indication, even if the trade is confirmed in the next 10 minutes, George finding the 3-2 for 1, knocks it down. 9 back in that second quarter. Take a sizable lead here into the 4th. Deep to about 9. George, step back 3.
Guarded by LeBron James. Now on the switch, George, step back 3 over Reeves. That's good. And the lead is 17 for the Clippers here in the first. Paul George got 5 threes in the game. He's got Anthony Davis on him. He gets past him, and he's fouled by Davis. Count the basket, and a chance at a 4. 9-second difference in the game in shot clocks. George pull up 3, buries it, and gets the Clippers within 1.
26-24, LA in front. George defended by O'Neal. Right down the middle. George flips it up and in. Impressive. PG-13 to the rack.
Junior in airplane mode finishes off a missed layup by Kyrie Irving. He's into double figures. Quick score by the Clippers. Would probably be able to look this up. I wonder what the earliest time in a game is in the annals of Mavericks history. They've hit 100 points. It happened tonight with 4.5 minutes. I think 4:31 to go in the third. And that is Paul George flipping it up.
2 minutes off the second quarter clock. George goes right around Gilliard and lays it in.
Hey, they know they're playing really for something. Yeah, wins and losses, I get it. But it's bringing out the best in these players.
It's a shot by Paul George. And it's a...
Talking at the defensive end. Now he's got his hands full against a red-hot PG.
Paul George, money, a 3 and 7 down as he just goes sprinting for 2, and he's got 8.
Who's going to win small ball here?
George inside, into Brown. He gets it to go. Russell Westbrook. Paul George with 29. And now 31 defended.
Picked up by Van Vliet, former teammate north of the border. 9 to shoot for the Clippers. George drives on Brooks, spins away, down the lane, hangs, coming into this game as a career 34% three-point shooter, hitting over half of his triples. Contested jumper for George. It falls nevertheless. Taking a seat, George is back in. And George was cooking in the 7 minutes he played. He had 11 points. Crosses over Jeff Green, rumbles down the lane, hangs and hits again. 13 for George in the last 2 games.
That was a tough one, though, where you have to ball fake, leave it, set again, and let it fly.
9 for his last 16 before that. Paul George, 39% this season.
George, 8:11 on the clock. Sohan trying to keep him in front, but he is red hot from the outside now. As Paul George, another 3.
The only way
team desperately to find a way to stop this losing streak. George. Timing of this meeting.
Hart draws a crowd. Clippers 3 for 5 from the field. Pelicans 5 for 6. Paul George, that's his. Lots of traffic inside. Good defense by the Pelicans. Plenty of time to shoot for the Clippers. George hangs and hits. certainly indicate that. Clippers miss 2 free throws. On the other side, Mavericks miss a lob. 3-2 is our count. Paul George finds Terrence. Good pass. George knocks down a 3, and the Clippers jump.
That's Kai Reed. I mean, he's so tricky with his handle. One of the best in the league at getting to his spots and then rising up. And speaking of which, Paul George once again off the bounce. Teammates penetration to get you some looks.
Half of his 3-pointers are from the catch and shoot variety. George glances at the shot clock. Takes a tough shot over a decent defender, if not better.
Trying to squeeze that off. That was not an open 3. One thing about your shot selection, this is a really good team when it comes to guarding the 3 ball. Paul George is taller than Corey Joseph and shoots over it.
Still great defense.
Once you break the press, you should be able to get something easy.
You don't want to allow just the blow by.
But hey, Czar, I got to ask you, did you have more juice on the line when you knew the head coach and were good friends on the other team?
I think there's no question about it. When you're going up against somebody you're very close with that you respect.
Rebound Westbrook. The Clippers looking to push. The shot clock is dark. They're down by 2. George wants it all. The 3. Oh, my God.
In that first half of the Clippers didn't play a ton in the second quarter. Neither did Westbrook. Just 7 minutes for Westbrook. George switches it through on the turnaround.
Paul George able to make a play, spacing.
Jackson, who has played brilliantly while Murray's been out of the lineup, checks back out of the floor. Gordon batted down the pass. Shot clock at 2. George has to hoist it. He does, and he buries a 3. Big shot by Paul George. Gordon batted down the pass. Shot clock at 2. George has to hoist it. He does, and he buries a 3. Big shot by Paul George.
Side, George couldn't handle cleanly. Here's George pulling up. It has the touch.
Shooter's roll, indeed.
Timeout will pass.
That's an incredible pass.
From Jordan Clarkson. Wow.
Yeah.
14-point game. George fading. He got it. 20 for
down on Simon. Certainly has the strength to go where he wants to. Good ball movement here by the Clippers, but a great closeout by Sharp. Just 2 to shoot for George from the nail. Can't do it. Back-to-back buckets in the mid-range. George with 7 to shoot.
down the lane off the window and in. A tough shot for some. 13 points in the first half. And the Knicks now lead by 4 in a 12-point turnaround since the first quarter. George trying to get it going. He struggled off the window and in. Paul George now with 6. George gets downhill right to the rim. Oh my goodness, what's with the rebound. George on Grimes, loses the ball. Westbrook, oh, he delivers it right to George. Westbrook.
And got caught underneath. Back up top, George. Good close out by George. Not allowing him to get that 3-point shot off, but George has to work for that too. The Clippers have slowly sort of chopped down that Thunder double-digit lead. Wallace, the rookie. And a crack here on Paul George out on the perimeter. Let's see what George does. We got a little push off there. We've seen that shot from Paul George a ton.
So we'll see how long Ty Lue goes with his original game plan defensively. Then you have to make adjustments.
The Clippers do have a couple of equalizers, and Paul George signs his autograph on the game.
The ball cut without it, and they get rewarded.
George picked up by White. Good defender. Launches from 15, and Paul George is a pretty good offensive player. PG now.
Be aware of that and get out to him.
He's been very good. Absence of Morant. Paul George gets his first touch, rises in the mid-range, and the shot is good. In the playoffs, it was Raptors Cavaliers. Ty shut it down, but they go way back. Lots of advice from Ty Lue and Chauncey Billups with Lowry. Nice move by Paul George. He's able to lay it in. Fires from distance, and good to see James Harden back out there. He never left the game, but was hobbling around for a possession or two late in the second quarter. Paul George knocks down the mid-range shot, and PG now has
inside, and it was Bam showing off his passing ability with the high-low.
Kevin Love continues to be impressive off the bench this season for Miami. He has 13 points in 11 minutes. He's helped cut the lead down to 5. George, catch and shoot 3. Bucket for Paul George. 16 for George. A fancy pass there by Harden. Goes back to George. He's been the cash cow in this third quarter. Spins his way to freedom and knocks it down. Paul.
Jokic getting ready to check in here. Here is George at the free throw line, extended pull-up, looking for the bounce, and he will get it. Friendly rim
Percentage from beyond the arc over the last couple of weeks. Best so far this season. Paul George up against Zion. And good job defensively, but that guy is smooth. He sets it up for Norman Powell. Paul George outside. All the way to the rack. Paul George, he's got Larry this time.
He also has a 2-for-1.
Yeah. And he's got another triple.
He mentioned how he was sitting on 1 point for a long time.
This is the guy that Lakers better be concerned about, because in the half court, he makes things happen off the dribble.
To be at least in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Be playing one another. George goes to work on Booker, loses the handle, recovers. Leonard on a Kogi, draws a double from Durant. 3 to shoot for George. Down the lane, Johnson steps. Oh, a feathery touch for Paul George.
Where the foul was called.
Well, Harden has it been a bit quiet here so far tonight. They might need him to make some noise. Paul George gets into the paint, lobs it up and lobs it in. Unidentifiable organization from, say, 15 years ago. George leaps to grab the pass, but it's late in the clock. He steamrolls. Schroeder goes to the... Clippers 8 of 12 in the quarter. Toronto 7 of 13. George on Barnes. Westbrook back to George for the mid-range. It's good. George with 14. Great. Eight to shoot. George on Porter. Dashing down the lane. Off the window and in.
Turnover for the Clippers. Can they take advantage?
George rises above a double team and puts it in. 21 from George. Double. 10 to shoot. George attacks on Barrett. Elijah off the line. George beats the buzzer to 3. Oh, it's gone! Stumbles out of there. Loose ball picked up by man down. George with 6 to shoot. George trying to create fadeaway 3 is in, and Paul George.
On both there, uses physicality when he needs to, but knocking down shots also here tonight. 15 for Roddy. Paul George. The foul himself into the painted area for a score. George. Paul George, 6th triple of the game. Zaire with 5 off the bench. George.
Spotted up in a slot. Beautiful read by Nasri.
15 in the third quarter for Anthony Edwards. Leonard over to George. Good look at a 3-ball, and he answers.
Point attempts up than did the Thunder. Identical shooting numbers. Clippers, by the way, season high for made threes in any half this year as Paul George. Harden slowly turns against Dort. Rugged defender for Mark Daigneault and the Thunder. EG trying to shake the defender and somehow puts it up and puts it down. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander now 6 of 16 from the field and not known as a defender. James Harden did a great job.
That's what it went when he went out to eat.
Thomas still on that rookie deal. 42-29 Nets. George gets close to the rim. It helps. His first bucket.
3 head coaches.
That's right. Yeah, Mike Budenholzer, terrific coach who was a surprising move. They let him go. Adrian Griffin, and now whoever takes the job is Paul George. Crashes hard throws it down with two hands and 2 possessions. His first 2 buckets of the second half. He's got 22. George shakes Reeves. Oh, here he comes.
Bench getting his rest.
Prince picking up Paul George. Now the switch. Wood ends up on him. George goes to work with the big man on him. George gets inside and lays it in.
Plumlee to Paul George. George with a jumper, and it's good.
Prior to the start, had a 3-point shot. Pump fake, took the mid-range. Good offense and defense.
Paul George sidesteps the 3. Good.
Get the bucket though, and it's taken down by George quickly ahead. I'm really anxious to watch George play. And sometimes it's the way his schedule is. I bet I've seen it maybe.
It's all about winning in Clipperland, and really that's all that matters.
James Harden said, I've done it all. I'm here for one reason. I think everybody knows what that is. Gives it up to Paul George. Westbrook down the lane. Harden, top side to George. George turns, fires, fills it up. Kind of a fall away hook on the run, and he hit it.
He's taking advantage of his opportunities, Jaden Ivey. He hasn't had the ball a lot, but a few times he has. He's been aggressive, and he's putting pressure right into the chest of the Clippers.
Paul George over.
That's a big part of this franchise's identity.
Well, if you can't see it in the lane or you can't see it on the jerseys, just look at midcourt because it basically covers one three-point line to the other. But I have to think JJ is a former player. Almost everybody wanted to be part of Heat culture at one point as Paul George. Excellent defense by George, who's number 6 in the league in steals.
What a luxury the LA Clippers have with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the wing as defenders.
Both in the top 6 in steals. And Plumlee starting for the injured Zubats. Paul George. He's been playing with the injured left groin. Looks good on the basketball court.
Here's George. Working against McCollum. And there's his first field.
Better job of that, in my opinion. Right now, he's only averaging 5 rebounds a night. This man should be getting 2 or 3 offensive rebounds a night.
So up around what? Maybe 10 a game? 8 a game? Paul George. Harden over to George. Lost 2 straight away. Oh, it's good, and that is a good sign. Back-to-back points. He was given on that night, and he has really had a nice little stretch here for the Pistons, who lead 52-43. George for 3. It's good. George stand wide. Ball goes back to the Clippers out. Can the Clippers catch the Pistons napping? No.
There's few times when Norman Powell can come in off the bench and knock down a few J's.
George inside and knocks it down. He's a gifted shooter, misses there. George with a rebound. Clippers are down by 4. They led by 10 in the first quarter. They have trailed by 13. George pulls up and knocks it down and puts the lead. George.
Draymond Green on the offensive end. Getting both of those guys back and healthy has been so important to the success of the Golden State Warriors.
It's the 3rd game back for Payton as Paul George. Star power for good reason, but they have a terrific second unit. And now, as you mentioned, with the addition of Tice, along with Plumlee, who's healthy.
And it was a little bit short. Thunder have options on the offensive end. The Clippers have a ton of options as George gets down low. And
told us that, look, everyone in the NBA has had a green light once upon a time, so it's really easy to play off of great players like the Thunder had and be able to find your looks within the system. And as
they are 30-1 when they lead through 3 quarters. Grizzlies had a league leading 8 victories when trailing through 3. Paul George makes it a 4-point game.
Clock management, mismanagement, especially going into overtime, that I think cost really some really good opportunities for the Wizards.
The former Wizard lobs it to Tice, who's done a lot of work here in his first quarter. He leads all Clippers with 7. George. I'll tell you what.
Timely shooting. And back in the game for Minnesota. He's played 30 minutes in this game, so.
Paul George got the bounce.
Pass, give a great shot for Jay.
Here's George from mid-range.
Not going to be able to hit a lot. Some defense thought it was a travel, but got away with whatever that was.
Here's Paul George. PG pulls up. There's some of your
22 from deep. Here's Harden. Van Vliet on Leonard. A couple of former teammates, champions with the Raptors in 2019. Paul George laces, bounded by Plumlee. Paul George discovering his rhythm a little bit, working off the bounce, a little quick sit dribble, and scores it over Smith.
Yeah.
George. Oh, shows off the handle. Great defense by DeSumo, but George moments ago. Now a chance to tie, maybe take the lead with a three. George the other way with 5:50 to play in the third. George attacks. We are tied at 67.
Best player in the game, and who's to argue with him right now? At age 22, his star is rising quickly. Anderson guarding Paul George. George buries a step back three-point.
I think a lot of people have said that.
I think he might have stolen it. I heard him say that. Seriously.
Oh, man, Paul George continues.
67 for the field.
8 points in the second half.
The high low's working. The big lineup is working.
Yeah, good adjustment by Donovan. He got the separation he needed. Paul George, the LA native.
That's where he begins for the Palace, with everybody on their feet.
Toronto is willing to live with that shot. You can tell because Zubac didn't even rotate.
Paul George, he's going up over CJ. So Paul, that was right in front of us. 7-point game, inside of 5 to play. Paul George finding space and finding the mid-range.
So smooth.
George. Clippers get into the paint.
Pulls off. George on the advance. Puts Henderson on his hip.
Same result.
George picked up by Ayton as they switch out. George leans back and he delivers a triple. 14 for Scoot tonight. 9 minutes left here in the fourth. George turns, faces fire. Yes, sir, Paul George. Clippers bring it in play along the baseline. Paul George.
Wow, that's a nice move.
Two-hand.
Multiple times. Chris just does a little bit of everything. He can be used in a lot of different ways, different offensive schemes. Defensively, he rebounds. He's a big reason, even as a rookie, why the Blazers have the best offensive rebounding percentage.
George using the offhand to shed Walker. Following jumper in the paint.
Those operations, and of course, that doesn't happen as seamlessly as it does if we don't have the leadership of Joe Cronin and Dwayne Hankins, who are behind.
That first half was kind of rough. Grambling State, man, they let him play. Paul George with it. Fires over Scoot and scores.
If they've both got it going, you have a problem.
Gray Jr. has struggled from the three-point line, but he can play. George in the mid-range. Boy, he is.
This is when you start to fine-tune to get your playoff legs up underneath you, more so the mental aspect. And if Paul does this, Clippers shooting 70%. Like you said, it's a tie score. So defensively, Clips need to lock in a lot more. That's why I was saying get that shooting percentage down.
George from 15 is good.
He's missed his last 5. Clippers still trail 84-77.
Yeah, he might need to stay behind the three-point line. But he got lucky by that one. See if we can capitalize right here offensively.
George rises and knocks it down. Paul George.
All evening.
The Clippers are shooting 55%. The league winning percentage is 90% when you shoot 55.
They make you grind it out in the quarter court. Their defense allows them to be in a ball game, and they continue to answer and extend runs.
Paul George finds some room and nails it.
Every time the gap starts to close, Tyrese Maxey senses it and makes a big bucket.
George spins, double team, still gets it to go.
He hadn't gotten hurt. Maybe he's the third scoring option on this team. All of those situations have forced him to grow up, and it's also expedited his growth and development as well, and for the better for him individually, certainly.
Paul George. Shot clock at 8. Game clock at 10. George drives on Isaac, fading away. The jumper is pure.
Kawhi Leonard. Yep. Looking like Brandon. Things aren't going your way. He is able to fight because he's been there and done that. He's seen worse. Paul George trying to stem the tide. Oh my goodness, this guy is. Makes it a 17-point game. Here's Alex Len trying to close out on Paul George.
Now George pulls it back. Reggie Jackson picks him up. And George just going to take one himself. Little fadeaway is good for Paul George.
Love how he created space using
it back.
Yeah, they were arguably the best starting five in the game.
Nuggets and the Celtics can make that case. Won December 6th, despite a Jokic triple-double in that game. That was here in Los Angeles. Paul George rises up, knocks it down. George feeling it right now. Keeps his dribble, gets by Porter. Second time he's put that move on Michael Porter. Comes up short, Tucker kept it alive. Another chance for the Clippers. This is Watson on George. George barrels in, George lays it in.
Jazz misfire. Clippers out in front 15-2. Jazz now trail in the first quarter by double figures for the 31st time. That leads the league in the NBA. Paul George to play in the first quarter. Clippers hunting for their first lead. They've trailed by as many as 8. George, the pull-up from 10. It's good.
Share the ball, make the defense move.
20 assists for Cleveland here, and we just started the third quarter. George tries to challenge Mobley. He's got the long reach. Oh, it's a roof scraper from on Levert, from the former Pacers. 5 to shoot for George. Picked up by Allen. 2 to shoot. Going to be a tough one. A 3. Oh, it's good!
For a second one.
George with Strus lurking in the background. Launches in the mid-range. Oh, it's good! 37 for George! 7 to shoot for George. 3 to shoot. Gets down. Lets it fly for the lead.
Ball out of Paul George's game and making him facilitate.
George and Durant draped all over him. A tough contested step back 3. Suns, meanwhile, not feeling good about any shot that they are currently taking. George on a tough pull-up. Like they went that 6-minute stretch with Zubac on the floor, and they were so intent on trying to get him the ball each. As
Suns have had some great opportunities here to complete the process.
George working on Allen. Got an extension on that arm and hit
P.J. Tucker.
And he goes back to Paul George.
It's like watching the final brushstrokes of the Mona Lisa.
See, Paul George at 1-2.
More than they did the entire second quarter, with 9 points compared to the 8 they had in the second. Here's George, guarded by Washington, and George still able to hit the 3. It was nowhere near good. George, 13 points in this game, just 5 of 15 from the floor. George fading and dropping it in. Some first quarter. George letting clock run. His 3, banks in, why not?
James Harden had 28 points, 8 assists. He went 6 of 11 from three-point territory on Sunday. George, and that's the problem.
It's nearly knocked it away. Zubac and blocked from behind.
Harris
back out to man. Shot clock at 3. Paul George rattles in a three-pointer. Game for the Clippers. George gets inside. Harassed by Josh Green. George drives Green right with him. George falls down, throws it up, and it goes in. How about that circus shot? From three-point range. George gathers, gets inside, count it, and a foul. Pointer in and out. A 12-point lead for the Clippers. Excellent defense, just better offense from Paul.
His defense, he's held Luka to 4 for 20. Against everybody else, Luka's been fine.
Paul George, another 3. Puts it in! Paul George. They've cut it to 22. 4.5 remaining. George gets into the paint. Finds Terrence Mann. Shot clock at 4. George, another 3. Another one goes down.
100%. Luka's taking an absolute physical beating, you're saying?
Yes. He's staying in the game with 3 fouls. Paul George again! 26 first. Have one. They lob it into George. Mishandles it, but able to regather. 7 on the shot clock. George goes in the corner, falling away. Oh!
With Washington probably the best defender on this. No slipping. Blowing a tire there was George, who regains it right now. And sets up with the shot clock at 9 and a 3.
George on the shot clock. George, baseline jumper's good. 16 for George.